Hello, everyone. I am so excited to be with you all today and thinking about getting started with Lumio. I'm going to go ahead and switch my slide here. For those of you that don't know me, my name is Michelle, or I also go by Mish. And whatever works for you, that works for me. I am a wearer of many hats at Smart and Lumio. I am a professional development specialist. You might know me as your local education solutions consultant. I do all the things. And before being here at Lumio, I taught kindergarten, first grade, and Chicago Public Schools. And then I moved over to sunny Arizona. And for those of you that don't follow me yet, I do have a Lumio Instagram, and that is Teach with Mish 3, because there's only so many things that I can tell you that I love about Lumio in the very short time that we get together here. So if you give me a follow on Instagram, there's lots more Lumio tips and tricks on there. They're labeled with a little cover page there. So lots of things that I can tell you. But for now, what I'm going to have everyone do is get connected to my lesson. So this is kind of how I like to do these. Is I love for everyone that's in here with me live time to join in as a student first. And then halfway through, we're going to swap out into teacher mode so that you get a chance to really try out what it is that we're building. So let's take a moment here. You're going to go to lumioclass.com. You're going to click on join as a guest, and then put in my code, which is 181461. That is on the screen here. It's also rotating at the bottom of our call, and it's also in the chat, so you can't miss it. It's in 3 different places here. As everyone is getting logged in here, just a reminder that we're going to start, for those of us that are watching this live time, if you have the ability to have a second screen, I'd love if you got connected as a student, because then it'll give me the ability to kind of show you what it's like to be a student. And I'll show you what I get to see as the teacher. And then halfway through the call, we're going to swap into teacher mode so you get a chance to really create. Now, if you're catching this on your phone, if you've just got one screen and it's easier for you to just sit back and follow along, I'm also okay with that. So let's give it just a second here, and then we're going to get going. All right. I'm going to give it just one more second. I can see I've got one person logged in with me. Hey, Asha, welcome in. And then we're going to get going. If you are not joined in yet and you intend to, you can still do that. What I'm going to do is go to my little people management tool, and Tisha's joined us, and I'm going to click on show class ID. And now that is going to live right at the bottom of my Lumio screen, but it's also right at the bottom here of our call. So let's go ahead and get started. I always love to start with one of our features in Lumio called Response, which is our quiz function. And we now have the ability to, with a short answer, be able to do a word cloud. So I've got a quick question for everyone. And I really want you to think is, what is one word that comes to mind when you think about tech in the classroom? What is one word that comes to mind when you think about technology in the classroom? Now, if you are not signed into Lumio, feel free to also comment in the call. I'll still see it pop up on my screen. Feel free to do it there. Someone submitted the word flexibility, and I really like to ask this question sometimes when I'm really starting to think about Lumio, because in a moment, I'm going to explain to you what Lumio is and why we love to use it and how it can help you in your classroom. And I actually think that flexibility is a really great word here, because as teachers, there's so many different tools that we use. And as I said that, the word overwhelming came up, and I love that, because we're going to really tie all these things together, because there's so many tools that we use, each of them serving a purpose. And Lumio really helps to bring all of those things together to make it the least amount of overwhelming for both you and your students. So let's get started. I saw someone maybe sort of typing the word engaging in there. Let's see. All right, so you've heard me say Lumio, 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 but what is it? So here's what I'd love for everyone to do is just kind of take a moment. I know we're still, for the most of us, in the very beginning of the school year, but think about maybe a week or a day in the life last school year. And I want you to think about all of the different websites that you use. So I'm thinking things like Google Slides, Canva, Kahoot, YouTube. I think I've probably named a few, even like your digital curriculum if you've got access to it online. And then I want you to think about standing in front of your students, whether you've got a projector, you've got a smart board, you're teaching online and you're using a computer with your students. Think about all those different tabs that you've got to navigate through, right? And you turn your back to your students and boom, you've lost them. Or if you're working with younger students, you're running over, hey, let me make sure that you're logged into Raz Kids. Hey, let me get you now logged into Kahoot. And you're wasting so much time. And even though sometimes the teaching day feels so long, it also at the same time doesn't feel long enough. So each of those moments that we can really save where we can spend more time learning together is really important. So that's where Lumio comes in. Here's kind of like my little menu, if you will. So you can start with the content that you already have. And that's really, really important, is you never have to start over. You can import the great content that you've already created, purchased, or been supplied by your school district. You can import it right into Lumio. You can turn your activities into workspaces, whether that's individual work or group work, which I'm going to show you today. You can bring in YouTube videos ad-free. We've got 12 different game-based activities, and then just some more things that we're kind of going to walk through today of all the different ways that you can engage your students. So bottom line is all the great things that you do in a teaching day really brought in so you can stay in one tab the whole time. All right. I always like to say the why, the how, and the what. So why are we doing this? We're always thinking about how we can make our instruction as powerful as possible to make the best learning experiences for our students. And we're going to do that by really drawing on the things that we already have, the knowledge that we already have. We're teachers. We have all these things that we've created and been supplied and things that we've practiced that we love. And all we're going to do here together today is just enhance them to make the best possible instruction. So before we move forward, I'm going to show you an example in just a moment. I really like to always show you this lesson planning menu. And that's why I really like it is, when we're sitting down and we're thinking about our lessons, there really are 4 points of a lesson that we're really trying to capture. We engage our students in a new learning concept, and then we help them to explore it with manipulatives. We help to elaborate, and that's where we really get the practice going. And then, of course, we always want to evaluate, and evaluating is the most important part. For us as teachers, we're capturing the data so that we know how our teaching practice is going, if we need to stop and continue to practice, or if we can move on to the next, if we need to do some strategic grouping. So a moment ago, when I named all of those common websites or platforms that we use, there is a reason that you go to them, and they're really good reasons. So I have this menu here for you. And these are the things that you can do right inside of Lumio to keep you right in that tab as you think about getting to each of those 4 E's of an effective lesson. All right. So what I'm going to do right now is I'm actually going to show you just a quick little example. Now, this is a lesson on want versus need. I'm sure many of us have done this with our students, but what I would really like for everyone to think about is no matter what you teach, what grade, what content, there is something that you can do here. In a moment, after we play just a quick little game, I'm going to give you ideas for elementary, middle, and high school. But humor me here, we're going to do a lesson on want versus need. So you'll notice here on your screen, if you're logged in with me, you get to see this right on your page. I have not made this into a workspace yet because it's always really great when you're able to get all those instructions out to your students before you release them to do an activity, right? So to support my students, I quickly recorded myself here. If I click on here, it'll read the word want, and it'll be my voice. And I'm also explaining what a want is, similarly with need. And then in the top right corner, I have some instructions for the whole page. So if my students needed that support, they could have it. And now what I'm going to do is once I've given all those instructions, I'm going to remind my students that once I turn this into a workspace, you're going to have this toolbar that will appear on your screen in just a moment. I'll remind my students they can click on the pencil and they can write on the screen. They have the eraser. You have this button with the heart and the plus. That's your gallery. And here you've got lots of good stuff like stickers, kind of like little emojis. You've got shapes. You've got an image search, and it is safe search so that you can feel comfortable doing that with your students. You'll also have the ability to bring in external links or record yourself, especially for any of those students that maybe typing is not where they're at yet. Maybe they prefer to submit responses that way. They can also click on the A to type. And also for any of my math and chemistry teachers, you also have the ability to do that. So I'm going to give everyone just a moment to interact. And what I'll do is go to my people management tool again. And I'm going to turn this into a whole class whiteboard. So now any student that's logged in with me has access to edit this page. It's kind of similar to Jamboard. If you used that before it was discontinued, we now have the ability to participate together. So if anyone, I've got some 3 people logged in here. So go ahead, take a moment to interact. And as you're doing that, I always like to say that I love doing a class discussion or a brainstorm via a whole class whiteboard because it gives all of our students different ways to engage. Whether writing is their strong suit, recording, we're giving them a multimodal approach to showcase their learning because raising their hand or typing maybe isn't for everyone. So there's different ways that they can do that. So just a reminder, what you can do is you can click on the little gallery. Maybe you're going to bring in an image of a wand. So maybe you want ice cream. You recognize that that's not a need. That's just something really nice to have. And then you can bring that onto the screen here. If a student is not yet ready to do that, they can also click on the microphone. It'll give them a little window to record themselves. And that can populate on the screen as well. Oh, it's interesting. Someone put a picture of sleeping and want. I do want to sleep, but sleeping is something that our bodies need too. And so one thing that I really like about doing a whole class whiteboard is maybe my students are working and I want to give some more instructions or I want that attention back on me. In the top right corner, I can click on everyone can edit. And for those of you that are logged in, you'll notice now that you cannot touch anymore. You can just see that page. And then, of course, I can click on a contribution that one of you made, and I can see who did it, and that was Tisha. Tisha wants to sleep, but hey, Tisha, you can actually move that over to the need section there because our bodies do need it. So I am able to click on each of these and see who it belongs to, which is really nice. All this work that we're doing is saving right inside of this file, and I'll show you later on when I end this lesson where all this work is going to go for me as the teacher. Let's do one more quick activity, and then we're going to hop into teacher mode so you can see how easy it is to create. I'm going to hop over here to a game, and this is a super sort game. And just play this game with me really quick, and then I'm going to show you some different ways. Remember, I said no matter what grade you teach, what content, there is a way. I always show super sort because everyone can think of a way to play this game. I'm going to click on model activity. So if you're one of my folks that is switching between 2 different screens, come on over to our call really quick. So you'll see that I can model this activity. So if I get the wrong answer, it does come back. If I get the right answer, it does disappear. And you'll notice that I did have the ability to bring in words and images. And in just a few moments, we'll also go through to show you how easy it is to create this game. But if you are logged in, take a moment and play this game so I can show you as the teacher what it's going to look like. So for those of you logged in, go ahead and take a moment. Interact with that game. All right. Come on back to our call here. And you'll notice that I did finish playing the game and I have that button that says reset. We know that there is such a power in repetition for our students to keep practicing their skills. So you do have the ability to reset and it does come back. And now as a teacher, I'm going to click on the top of my screen where it says view progress. Once I click on here, it looks like one of you is finished. I've got 2 of you that are still working. I also have the ability to toggle on show results. So I would be able to see the 5 most frequent correct and incorrect answers. And then I get a general view of what the average score is and the average time spent. Now, I think this is the best part because, right, feedback and especially instant feedback is such a gift. We need it so that we're able to really guide our next teaching steps. I'm going to click on student progress here. And from here, it's always going to warn me, hey, you're about to show student names and scores. Are you sure you want to continue? So this is something, of course, you would do later on when you're not with your students, but just in case, it's always going to warn you. So I'll click show student progress, and I can see that I've got my students here. Oh, hey, Leonard. How's it going? All right. I'm going to click on Tisha. I'm going to pick on Tisha here because she's my coworker, and I know I can pick on her. She'll forgive me later, right, Tisha? I'm going to click right here and I can see exactly how that student is doing. So you'll notice that all of these here let me know that she got each of those items correct. Now let's just say Tisha didn't get them correct. It would give me that little red X instead. And you'll notice that it does say student's response on first attempt. So remember I showed you that when you're done, you can reset because there's a power in repetition. You can keep practicing. For a moment, I'm going to imagine or pretend that Tisha maybe didn't do so well. Right from this screen, there's so much analysis that I can do. Maybe I see that she got all the questions incorrect. I'll see maybe she spent 19 seconds, and maybe we're going to imagine that class average said 3 minutes. Really quickly, I'm going to think, I know Tisha. Did she do that because she doesn't know, because she's guessing? Do I need to have a quick conversation about maybe staying on task? Or maybe she simply didn't understand and I need to reiterate those instructions. Or maybe she got a poor score. Maybe she got 3 out of 8 and the class average was 3 out of 8. That's an instant reflection for me as the teacher to know we played this quick game and we're not ready to move forward. And I really love to be able to collect this data as a teacher via a game, because it really creates that low stakes environment for my students to showcase their knowledge. And instantly they get the feedback and I get the feedback, and we're able to really guide those next steps together. All right, I'm going to drop this down. Now, if you are not totally new to Lumio, this was an update that we got, I believe it was like early in the spring, maybe last winter, but you now have this button right here that says export results. I think this is one of the best parts. This lets you export this as an Excel sheet, and it'll give you all of your students' names, their scores, and those questions itemized. So just so many different ways that we can interact with our students. So I'm going to quickly just turn the page here. So remember, I said I always do a super sort, because no matter what you teach, I think there's a way that you can use a super sort. So in just a moment here, we are going to actually flip into teacher mode and take a look at how easy it is to create this game. I'm going to leave this here for a moment. So if you're one of my elementary school teachers that's watching, you can do living versus non-living, numbers versus letters, needs versus wants, the way that we just did. You can do, for my art teachers, warm versus cool colors. My middle school teachers, you can, if you're teaching Spanish or French, I think those are most commonly those second languages that we learn in school. You can do present and past tense verbs. Again, you can kind of do figurative and literal language, physical and chemical changes. For my high school teachers, I was visiting with a teacher in South Carolina about a month ago, and she was a psych teacher, and she was sorting character traits of introverts and extroverts. Physics teachers, types of motion. So there's just so many different ways that we can utilize this no matter what we teach. All right, so before we get into our next part, I always like to say, you know yourself as a learner, so I really want you to pick your own adventure here. Here's going to be kind of your options. If you're watching me live time, if your preference, if you've got 2 monitors, if your preference is to go ahead and log into teacher mode and click as I click, and you're able to kind of go through both of the different screens, please feel free to do so. If you are watching live time and that is a little bit too much to kind of toggle back and forth, you can just sit back and watch. Remember that this is being recorded. You'll be able to get that recording later on as well. And if you're watching this recorded, you get to pause and play. So those are your different options. Pick your own adventure and let's go. So what I'm going to do is click on my 3 lines in the top left corner, and I'm going to hit end session. If you're logged into my lesson right now, you are going to be brought back to the student screen, and it's going to ask if you want to log back in as a student. And right under there in blue font, it's going to say, are you a teacher? Sign in here instead. Or, and I'm putting this in the chat for you, you can go to golumio.com and you can sign in. Oops. See, this is what happens when I multitask. I put too many O's. I'm deleting my comment. Let's try that one more time. There we go. All right, golumio.com. And if you don't have an account yet, you can make one. It is free to try out Lumio. And I'm not going to spend too much time here for those of you that are going to follow along live time, because some of us are going to be watching this recording. So I'm going to go ahead and move forward. So when you are brought onto the screen, once you're signed in, yours will look just like mine, except I use Lumio all day, every day. So I already have my folders here, my files. But once you're logged in, if the top of your page looks like mine, you're in good hands. So here's what you're going to do. The first couple things is you have your class ID in the top right corner. There's mine that you use to get into my lesson. That is your code moving forward. Once you click on there, you do have some options. You can have a direct join link that you can share with your students. If your students use iPads, you can have that QR code. You also have guest access. I do recommend turning that off if you're using it just with your students. If you do have a school account with Lumio, if your district pays for it. Reason being, remember when you guys signed in, you got to pick your own names. And if you have students that have the ability to sign in as a guest, they're going to name themselves Taylor Swift. And A, the students are going to think that's really funny. And we're trying to manage those classes, right? And B, as a teacher, you're not going to know who that work belongs to. So I always recommend turning off guest access if you are able to. And then your students will be forced to kind of sign in with their school district account, and it'll pull their name from there. And if you ever need, you do have also the ability to reset your class ID if you need to. But that code is unique to you always, not per lesson, but to you as the teacher. And your students' Chromebooks, by the way, they will remember, or whichever kind of laptops they use, will remember. So when they go again to sign into a Lumio lesson via lumioclass.com, tomorrow, if you came to join me again, it would just say, hey, do you want to rejoin Michelle's class? So they don't have to put that code in every time, which is really nice. All right. So at the top here, you'll notice I've got some different tabs, and we're going to dive into a few of those as we kind of get through that creating process. But I'm starting out in my library. So here it is. This is kind of like your creation space. Think of it as kind of like your Google Drive. This is where you go to house and create all of your files. In the top left, I also have a button that says New. We're going to go ahead and click on that New button. And from here, this is my menu of all the different things that you can bring into Lumio. For just our call today, I'm going to show you just a couple things that you can do. And then I'm going to share with you some resources of where you can keep your learning going. But here's this new menu. Anytime you see these little plus buttons in the top right corner, if you click on those, what's going to happen is a little YouTube video is going to pop up, giving you a quick little visual and idea of what that feature is, how to use it, and just kind of give you an idea of what you can do with it. Import resource in the top left here, that is where you can go to import anything that you already have, whether it's a PowerPoint or PDF on your computer. If you are one of our legacy notebook users, that'll be there for you. I personally use Google, so I've got my Google Drive here connected. So this is where you will go to import anything that you already have. But for today's purpose, what we're going to do is in that middle row here, all the way to the right, we have a button that says game-based activities. I'm going to click on there. And here we have our 12 different games. Now, if you are taking notes, this is something that I always like to kind of call out here. We have 12 games, but remember when I showed you that super sort game that we played with wants versus needs, and I was able to show you my dashboard and I could see how each of my students were doing. 3 of these 12 games give you that dashboard. So if you're taking notes, these are the 3 games. It is Match 'em Up, Rank Order, and Super Sort. Again, those are the 3 games that give you the dashboard. Match 'em Up, Rank Order, and Super Sort. I have a little caveat for you. Monster Quiz and Team Quiz, they don't give you the dashboard, but they do give you the ability to export those results. So Match 'em Up, Rank Order, Super Sort give you the ability to see the full lifetime dashboard and export results. And then Monster Quiz and Team Quiz give you the ability to export those results as well. We also have some new AI features in Lumio. We're not going to explore them during this Getting Started with Lumio webinar. However, you'll notice that some of these do have a little purple AI little button for you, letting you know that there is an AI generator available within those games. Okay, for today, let's all click on Super Sort. And let's create one. So this is how simple the template is. So remember, I did wants versus needs, and I did pull up a lot of different ideas there for you. So if you're my high school teachers, you might do, again, character traits of introverts versus extroverts. You might do different kinds of motion. You might do different types of colors. If you're my art teacher, for my music teachers, different types of instruments. You might do even versus odd numbers, letters versus numbers. So many different things that you can do. I'm going to do nouns and verbs. If you know me, I always do this example. And one day I will branch out and do something different. Nouns versus verbs, you'll notice that you can do text or image. So I'm going to do house, pen, desk, and computer. I'm naming things that I see in front of me. And then verbs, I'm going to say run, learn, talk, and walk. So all you need to do there is put in your content. You do also have the ability to bring in an image. Once you're done there, I'm going to click on next, and you have some different themes. I'm going to pause here for just a moment. So anyone that is with me live time and practicing. So you've got a moment there. Maybe drop in the chat for me. What are some different ideas for super sorts that you can do with your students? I thought of a couple ideas there. What are some more I can add to my list? Give everyone just a moment here. Oh, let's see. Tisha says informational literacy. So true or false. I love that. So you'll notice once you put in your content, you can pick a background. Some are interactive, by the way, like the rock concert. They jam out when you get the right answer. There is some simple ones as well, or you can also bring in a custom. I love doing custom because one of two things will happen. I'll either bring in something that's relevant to what the subject is. So I had a teacher that was doing some things on Othello. So she brought in an Othello background back there. Or my last year teaching, I had a student, and you'll know this if you teach primary, we will do anything to get our students to participate, and bringing in their interest is super important. So I had a student my last year that loved Toy Story. And so everything was always Toy Story themed, no matter what we were learning, addition, subtraction, doing an SEL activity. So it's always fun to be able to kind of really customize it as much as possible. I would have brought in a Toy Story themed background. So for today, I'm going to just bring in this Lumio Firefly, click finish, and that's it. That is how simple it is to create a game. Once it's done loading, I always like to add in some audio instructions if I do have any students that need that support. So in the top right corner, I've got this little person talking. So I'll say, read each word and sort them into the buckets of noun versus verbs. Remember that nouns can be a person, a place, or a thing, and verbs are action words. Once I'm done, I might listen to it, click add, and now that audio is sitting right at the top of my screen. I can rename this. And so if I do have students that are working on this, they have the ability to listen if they need. Especially, we all know that we've had a student that needs the instructions 100 bajillion times, right? And instead of being the broken record yourself, you can record yourself that one time, and that'll live right there to support those students. And also for some students, especially in their accommodations, if they are a neurodivergent learner, it is really helpful for them to have that right there if they do benefit from hearing the instructions more than once. So that's really nice. Once you're here, you might rename your file as well. So maybe this is going to be a whole lesson on parts of speech. And then from here, this kind of looks like a Google Slides. So I'll see here in my bottom left corner, I can click on that plus button and I can continue to build from here. So I might explore some of these buttons. I might bring in a graphic organizer that I can customize, just kind of showing you a couple of different things you can bring in. For my math teachers, you do have some different manipulatives with all infinitely cloned objects there. If you are one of my high school math teachers, we've got Desmos built in, lots of really great things. And I also encourage you to take a look at our embedded content because we've got some really great partnerships with some of those ed tech partners that you might be using already, like Book Creator, ClickView. So those are some really good things for you to check out. So for time's sake, what I'm going to do is click on Finish Editing because I really would like to show you what you're going to need to know. So before I get into what you're going to do with this lesson, we're going to imagine that I created a full file and it was ready. Before I do, I want to show you at the top here, you have a button that says Lumio Library. If I click on Lumio Library, I want you to imagine this being kind of like Teachers Pay Teachers, but it's totally free. And so I always encourage before you start searching for things, take a look at all of these categories. There are so many really wonderful files that have been created by educators all over. So you've got primary math, you've got secondary math, all different kinds of concepts here. And if you find something that you like, maybe I really like this animal trivia, you can click on it. You do have the ability to preview the entire file. If there's something that is movable in here, you have the ability to interact with it just to see what it's really going to be like. So there's an answer hiding in there. And then you can save it to your library. And you don't have to stay here while this is loading. You can move on and do something else as you're waiting. And that'll save to your own library. And then it's your own copy to edit. So you can change it up, delete a page, add something in there. There are so many great resources for you ready to go in Lumio. You don't have to start over. So many wonderful things. So I'm going to pop back here into my library, because now that we've created this wonderful file on parts of speech that we're going to pretend I finished, what do I do next? So what's going to happen is, and if you used Lumio last year, we now have something called class sessions. And this was a really, really big update. Maybe Tisha, if you want to drop the recording in the chat of the webinar where they discussed class sessions for anyone that used Lumio previously. So right here, I can roll my mouse over here and I see some options for start new, assign new, or edit file. Let's say I'm with my students and I'm ready to teach this lesson. What I'm going to do is click on start new. What's going to happen is it's going to leave that file that's in my library nice and clean for me, and it's going to create a clean copy, and it's going to start a session for me. So maybe I'm a high school teacher and I'll say this is my period 1 freshman, and this is unit 1, week 2, let's just say. And I'm going to click OK. It's going to give me that window if I want my students to connect. Now, something really important I meant to say earlier, especially for my primary students, primary teachers, or any school districts that you might be working with that don't have one-to-one devices. This is really important. Lumio does not have to only be used one-to-one. You can do this as a whole group if you've got a smart board or a projector, any kind of interactive flat panel in the front of your classroom. If you're teaching virtually, you can do these things live time as a whole group. It does not have to be one-to-one. This pop-up is always going to show up right away in case you are connecting your students, but you can close it and then just maybe open up model activity and then do this at the front of the classroom with whatever you've got up front. Okay, so now we're going to imagine that, we've done this lesson with my students, just like I did with you earlier. I'm going to click on my 3 lines and hit end session. And you'll notice now I'm not in my library anymore. Now I'm in the tab that says class sessions. So here is that file that we just did. We're going to pretend I just taught you. You were my period 1 freshman. And I've got some options here. All that great work that I would have captured with my students. I can click review to see all of that student work. Now, let's just say those period 1 freshmen come back to me tomorrow, and I want to keep teaching from this exact file versus starting a brand new file. I can click Start Live here, and it'll take us right back to this exact same lesson. Or I also have the ability to share assignment. And what's going to happen here is it's going to give me an asynchronous link. So I can share this with my students on their Google Classroom. If I had a student that was absent or anyone that needs to do anything independently, this is going to be a link that I can share with them that's going to take them right back into this lesson, but now it'll be asynchronous. Okay. All right. I don't think I'm missing any questions here in the chat. So what I'm going to do now is I'm actually going to pop back into our file where we started today. All right, so I know that our time here together is short. This was a very bite-sized idea of what Lumio is, how simple it is to start it and get used to using it. But I want you to know that no matter what kind of learner you are, we have so many different pathways for you to keep your learning going. And I'm actually going to start on the right side of my screen here, and we have something called the Academy. And this is an invaluable resource to you. And the reason is it gives you self-paced and self-guided coursework that you can participate in. The courses take about an hour, give or take. It gives you a simulated screen and will really walk you through how to use Lumio the way that we've done here today. There is a getting started with Lumio. There is a level 1 educator as well. And there's going to be more coming, so stay tuned. We're going to be working on some more courses to add into there. You do get your certificate at the end of each course, and you can log it as a PD hour. It is a fantastic resource. Just like today, we have all of our other webinars. We're going to be planning webinars through the end of the school year. We'll do a couple or so a month, and you can always register for them. Even if you can't attend live, always register anyways, because the recording will be sent to your email directly. And if you click on this webinars page, what'll happen if you scroll down is all the recordings from our webinars last year. There are some that are just general. Hey, how do I go from Google to Lumio, Canva to Lumio, Notebook to Lumio? Then there's some that are really specific, math and secondary classrooms. I did one last year for art and music teachers. We've got ones for foreign language, so many different webinar recordings that are there for you on demand. And there's just going to be more and more coming your way. In the chat here, you'll notice this link was just dropped. It's the bit.ly for Lumio webinar resources. It'll take you to the page I'm showing you here with all these clickable links. And we also have our Lumio YouTube with a variety of 2 to 3 minute clips of how do I connect my students? How do I import something? How do I build a game? So, and then also lots of webinars from our Palooza this past summer where we had teachers from all over the world leading sessions for us. So I highly recommend taking a look at our YouTube channel. Now, I am going to skip over to here really quick because we also have one more really great resource I want to show you, and that is our ambassador platform. It is a really, really great place for you to come if you like to use Lumio, you'd like to keep growing with it, or if you're one of our Lumio pros, make sure you're part of our ambassador platform. We're going to drop the application link in the chat for you. This is a place to come to really connect with people all over the world using Lumio. Share ideas, ask questions. And if you've been around with us for a little while, over the last, I would say like 6 months, Lumio has been getting so many updates. Class sessions, being able to export results in the games, locking features, audio features. We've got some teacher widgets coming in. So if you're in our ambassador platform, all of those updates are being announced in there. And then also, if you ever see us at an EdTech conference like ISTE, we always do an ambassador get together and we've got lots of swag to give out. So we're going to drop that application into the chat for you and make sure that you sign up to be an ambassador. Also in the chat, you'll notice that there is a link for the YouTube page, that Lumio webinar resources, and then very last but not least, if you fill out the form that we're going to drop in the chat here for you, and I'm going to make sure you got that there too. You are going to get your certificate for attending this webinar. And if you have any questions, please feel free to reach out. I think Tisha's probably going to put her email in the chat. I'm going to drop mine as well. And if you ever have any questions, please do not hesitate to reach out. I'm also going to drop my Instagram because like I said, this time was so short and there is a billion other things that I also really deeply love about Lumio that I'd love to tell you about. So make sure you follow on Instagram where I've got lots of little Lumio tips and tricks on there. And we hope to see you at the next webinar. Thanks everyone for watching. See you next time.